All right, well, let's get into this. I guess the question I usually ask, and I sort of know that you were told to come to this one, but if this was on the schedule, stress, right, and you were able to pick, would you come to the stress one? Raise your hand. Okay. And if last year you went to the ethics boot camp and there was something about stress on the schedule, raise your hand if you would have gone last year. Do you see my point? You shouldn't just go to the stress lecture every year because you're so stressed. You should fix it so that you could go to something else, right? But we live our lives in such a way that we're completely stressed, and it has some negative health benefits. So I always like to start with some quotes. This first one's from the Bible, but you don't have to be religious to know what it means. Who of you by worrying can add a single hour to your life? Worrying in and of itself is not a productive thing, right? But we worry so much. Second, if people concentrated on the really important things in life, there'd be a shortage of fishing poles or basketballs or whatever it is you like to do. If we really understood what was important, we would be less stressed. Sometimes the most important thing in a whole day is the rest we take between two deep breaths. When was the last time you took a deep breath? Like just a... We're over-programmed. That's a word I got from my sorority girls, right? Over-programmed. We have to do so much. We wake up, it's 8 o'clock. I mean, how many days have you had like this? It's 8 o'clock, you wake up. You look at the clock and it's 1 in the morning. You have no idea where that day went, right? You didn't take a deep breath and you wonder why you're stressed. This is my favorite one. This is Robert Frost. The reason why worry kills more people than work is that more people worry than work. So if we could fix some of the things that are stressing us out, I think we'd be a lot better off. So let me read this. This is exactly the dictionary definition of stress. Okay? Webster's Dictionary. A specific response by your body to a stimulus, so an outside event, such as fear or pain, that disturbs or interferes with the normal physiological equilibrium of an organism. So when you're stressed, your brain gets it. I'm stressed. Your body doesn't get it like that, right? Your body thinks you're scared or you're hurt. And every once in a while, that's good. Your body responds. But if your body has to continually respond to being scared or hurt, it will wear you down. It will wear you out. It's like smoking cigarettes. My wife says to me, if people would just stop smoking cigarettes, she would lose 1/3 to 1/2 of her patients. But when you're young and smoking cigarettes, it doesn't affect you. And you're a little older, and all of a sudden you cough or whatever. Next thing you know, you're 50, 60 years old, and you have emphysema, which is the way my grandpa died, of emphysema, not being able to breathe. But when you're young and smoking cigarettes, you don't think about it. Same is true of stress. Like right now, you can pull an all-nighter, no problem, is my guess. When I was your age, I could too. I've done that so many times, my body won't let me. 1, 2 in the morning now, guys, I'm done. I cannot stay up. And I'm only 35. It just takes this toll on your body over time. So medically, this is what stress does, and your body does this involuntarily. Okay? Automatically increases your blood pressure, your heartbeat, your breathing, your metabolism, and your blood flow. And you know when you're stressed, you just feel yourself breathing faster, you feel your heart racing. Stress can cause physical, emotional, and behavioral disorders, which can affect your health, vitality, peace of mind, as well as personal and professional relationships. Raise your hand in this room if you've lost a relationship due to stress. The rest of you are lying, right? We all have. We react negatively, don't we? When we're most stressed is when we treat people the worst, and we lose those relationships. Too much stress can cause relatively minor illnesses like insomnia, backaches, or headaches. Raise your hand if you've lost a night of sleep to stress. The rest of you are lying, right? Raise your hand if you've had a headache due to stress. Those of you who aren't raising your hands, you must live in a perfect world, like this kid in the back. You must live in a perfect world, man. The rest of us sort of struggle, right? And can contribute to potentially life-threatening diseases like high blood pressure and heart disease. Think about all these negative repercussions of stress over time and what it does to your body. So, we're going to take a stress test. You don't need a piece of paper. You can just do this in your head. I'm going to read you 20 questions. Every time you answer yes, give yourself a 1. Every time you answer no, give yourself a 0. Pretty simple. At the end, we're just going to add them all up. Okay, number 1. And they all say frequently. The word that's important is frequently. So once in a while we do these things, but frequently, right? That's what I want you to give yourself a yes. 1. Do you frequently neglect your diet? So if that's a yes, 1. 2. Do you frequently try to do everything yourself? So I went to law school, right? That's what they taught us. Everyone's out to screw you. Do everything yourself. And I've had to fight really hard against that tendency to micromanage. When you're in your group projects, are you a micromanager type person? Or if your teammates let you down, do you just do all the work for them? If that's you, give yourself a 1. 3. Do you frequently blow up easily? Where are my Italians? Automatic 1, girl. It's just in our DNA. We're stuck, right? 4, do you frequently seek unrealistic goals? And I talk to the gymnastics team all the time here at DU. I love those kids, and I look at their goals. And on the floor exercise, let's say that Sasha wants a 10. That's her goal. And on the balance beam, she wants a 10. And Emily wants a 10. These are their gymnastics goals, right? And then I look at their business calculus goals, and maybe Emily's happy with a B or a B minus, and I'm okay with that. Your goals can differ based on what you're good at. So what you're really good at, you should set higher goals. What you're not so good at, they can be a little lower. They should still be out of your reach, right? But I wanted to be a doctor. I'll give you an example. I wanted to be a doctor until I took high school chemistry. It was over, man. I didn't understand a word. This was high school. We called it cheerleader chemistry. The reason I took it is because all the cheerleaders were in it. It was the lowest level chemistry class, and I couldn't understand a word of it. Now, could I have worked my way to become a doctor? Probably. But it wasn't in the cards. I would have been a terrible doctor, okay? So what are your goals? They need to be high, but if they're so far out of your reach, then you'll get stressed out. Do you see how all these things cause stress? A bad diet, micromanaging, blowing up easily, right? Unrealistic goals. And you can see as you give yourself ones here that pretty soon it adds up. 5, do you frequently fail to see the humor in situations others find funny? So have you been in a room where half the room, someone tells a stupid joke, okay? And half the room laughs. And half the room's like, that guy's an idiot. You've been in that room, right? Let me see if this is that room. If you've heard this joke, don't answer. How do you put an elephant in a refrigerator? Don't answer. This tests your critical thinking skills. Anyone know? Just open the door and shove them in, right? You don't know how big it is. How do you put a rhinoceros in a refrigerator? This tests your memory. Anyone?
Open the door.
But take the elephant out. Good, right? Let's say the Lion King calls an all animals meeting, and all the animals are there except for one. Who's not there?
Rhinoceros.
Careful, the elephant's there. Where's the rhino?
In the fridge.
He's in the fridge. You want to go to the meeting, but in order to get to the meeting, you have to cross a river filled with dangerous crocodiles, and you don't have a boat. How do you get across?
All the crocodiles at the meeting.
Yes, all the crocodiles are at the meeting. Give yourself a 1. Give yourself a 1. Raise your hand if you thought that joke was funny. All right, so let me reread this. Do you frequently fail to see the humor in situations others find funny? If you didn't laugh, give yourself a 1. 6, do you frequently get easily irritated? Like this kid isn't me. He's like, damn it, I should have gone to a different one. Damn it. Guess what, kid? Give yourself another 1. If you frequently get easily irritated, it's a 1. 7, do you frequently make a big deal of everything? And this is college students, right? They come into my office. Oh my God, Professor C, did you hear about the... They just vomit it out. And I just look at them, right? And some of you are looking at the black shirts have done this to me. And I'm like, is that really that important? They look at me like, no, I guess not. I am. Okay. 8, do you frequently complain that you are disorganized? And for college students, that's just an automatic 1, isn't it? 9, do you frequently keep everything inside? And we'll talk about later how I'll tell you that. I think it's going to come out wrong way, wrong time. 10, do you frequently neglect exercise? So the federal government says that you should exercise 30 minutes a day, at least 5 days a week. That's the federal government minimum. If you don't exceed that, give yourself a 1. I was at Parents Weekend, so that's coming up, right? A couple Parents Weekends ago, and this couple in the front, after every single one of these, she's like, and I'm like, man, what are you doing? She goes, I'm doing my husband's. Like I see some of you looking at each other like, that's you. Just do your own. 11, do you frequently have few supportive relationships? And I really like when I get to do this talk after my one last night, because now you know what a relationship entails. So if you don't have enough of those, a real friend, give yourself a 1. 12, do you frequently get too little rest? So I guess I would say is if you go to bed at 4 and wake up at noon, that counts as too little rest. There are very few jobs in life where you can get away with that sort of lifestyle. 13, do you frequently get angry when you are kept waiting? And if that's you, give yourself a 1. 14, do you frequently ignore stress symptoms? So be careful, man. If you're not raising your hand, be careful. If you're getting headaches and you're just pounding Advil, right? Or NyQuil or whatever, just to get to sleep, you could be sort of ignoring stress symptoms. 15, do you frequently put things off until later? I love it. The broken printer phenomenon in college. Printer works fine until you guys have an essay due. And then you come into my class and say, printer was broken. And I say, what's wrong with it? Didn't have any paper. That doesn't mean it's broken. Just FYI. It just means you printed the thing out too late, right? 16, do you frequently think there's only one right way to do something? And the older I get, I tend to realize that this isn't true. 17, do you frequently fail to build relaxation into every day? So deep breaths, right? 18, do you frequently spend a lot of time complaining about the past? And if that's you, I'm happy to trade past with you anytime, man. My dad was in and out of jail. We grew up 3 to a bed. In my grandma's basement, I was on food stamps, man. It was a tough life. But I could either move on, or I could just think about it every single day. And I just can't stand it when people can't get over it. Do I want you to forget about it? No. I guess no, I don't. I'll never forget. But otherwise, I'll be stressed every single day, I think. Next, do you frequently race through the day? So that's the overprogram phenomenon, right? So 8 a.m. and then it's 2 in the morning. Last, do you frequently feel unable to cope with all you have to do? You know, your to-do list, you just start marking stuff off, and then it's longer and longer and longer. My emails, I get like 100 emails a day. My students ask me, why can't I email you? Well, you can. You and 100 other people, you know. And I just get all my emails returned, and now I got 50 more. That's the life I chose. I don't like it necessarily, but there's always more to do, right? All right, add up your score. For some of you, it's like carry the one, you know. All right, we're going to take a vote. 5 or fewer, raise your hand. 1. Hi, you should be smiling then. You're A-okay. 6 to 10ers. You're in the just breathe stage. So if you just breathe a little bit, be okay. 11 to 15ers. You are overstressed. Above 15. Paula. No, be honest. Above 15, just be honest. Okay, that's watching. So after these talks, what will happen is people will come up to me in tears. Seriously, tears. Adults in tears. Professor C, I'm a 19. I'm screwed. And I'm like, maybe. It's not the answer that Callie wants, right? I guess what I would say to you is if the scale only goes to 20, and you live your life at an 18 or 19, and then someone in your family gets cancer, you're done. If you live your life at an 18 and something bad happens to you, you're done. If you live your life at a 7 or 5 or 6 and someone gets cancer, you can deal with it, right? But if the scale goes to 20 and you live your life so high, that's how kids drop out of college. That's when you get into a midterm and cheat. Because your stress level is just so high already, what do you have to lose? Well, ask those 2 kids in my class that are no longer in there what they have to lose. Now they have to wait an entire year before they can move on with their business curriculum. Chances are their stress score was just so high that they just cheated. You know what's really interesting about that situation? Both of them asked me if they could take me next fall, which I thought was really cool, and I said, well, of course, right? I don't think they'll ever cheat again, but it cost them a year. All right, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to tell you how to get rid of the minor stresses. So here's the secret to all stress. If you ever hear a speaker talk about stress, and he tells you to lose all of your stress, I'll give you ways to de-stress from everything. Leave. Because if someone in your family does have cancer, or your GPA is low, you should worry about that. You shouldn't lose all your stress. It's ridiculous. What you do is you draw a line in the sand of your life. Like when you were kids. When I was a kid, we didn't have Xboxes and stuff. So we played games like this with your buddies. And if you cross the line in the sand, they got to punch you, right? So in your life, now there's probably an app that does the same thing, right? So on the left-hand side are our minor stressors. Minor. On the right-hand side are our major stressors. And I'm going to tell you how to get rid of these so that you can focus on these. And I think that that's a powerful distinction. But here's where you can trick me, right? Okay, Professor C, cool, I agree with your line, but everything of mine is here. Okay, I can't help you. If you're going to put everything here, then I can't help you. But I would argue to you that one bad grade on a test is here. Or a relationship with a friend that you could fix by just saying you were sorry is here, right? Even if you're not 100% responsible. Very rarely, as a lawyer, I have found, is any one party 100% responsible for any fight. It's generally really close to being even. And if you would just say you were sorry, who knows? So if you string together 12 bad grades, it's over here. If you get a C on my midterm, it's here. And we fix it, and we move on. It's minor. So I'm going to give you 20 ways to de-stress. So if you have a way to take notes, now would be the time. If not, just try to remember them. Maybe I'll post them up on my Facebook page, okay? But if you have a way to take notes, do it now. So this is 20 ways to get rid of this left-hand stuff. Number 1. Does everybody have their notes? I'll give you a second to do that.
What page are they on in the book?
224. If you have the book, it's in there. But I'm going to elaborate, Hannah, so just you should take notes. I'm going to elaborate on the book. Okay. If not, just listen. Number one, you need to make excellent decisions. Right? So, I used to say this in my speeches. I didn't say it last night, but I want you in your mind right now to think to the dumbest person you know. Don't look at anyone. Just think in your head, who's the dumbest person you know, okay? Everyone got a face? Don't look at her. Everyone keeps looking at this one girl. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, got a face in mind? Is that person's life harder than it needs to be? Yes. Because that person makes stupid decisions. Now, you as students don't understand this. You get really mad at the consequences of your decisions. So you don't study right for a midterm. But when do you get mad? When you get your grade. You're mad at the consequence as opposed to the decision that caused it, right? And when people come up to me and say, Professor C, I studied so long for your test. I couldn't care less how long you studied. No one ever says to me, Professor C, I studied so effectively and I got a C. Then I would be worried. I don't care how many hours you put in, right? So we care about the consequences as opposed to the decisions. And I'm just telling you, if you want to live a more stress-free life, your decisions have to be excellent. In business, those who make poor decisions get fired. Those who make good decisions, though, they tread water. You can't fire them because they're good. You know students like this. It's the kind of the kid that has a 2.9, a 3.1. They kind of make good decisions. Let me tell you something. You guys are business majors. If you have a 2.9 and your major isn't chemistry or engineering, how will you get into grad school? How will you get admitted to Daniels, right? So you're good, okay? But you'll never be promoted. You'll never run a company, things like that. People who make excellent decisions change the world. People who more consistently make excellent decisions. So here's what I want you to write down. I never beat myself up when I make a mistake, unless I've made it before. Does that make sense? So when I keep making the same mistake, I really get mad at myself. Really, really. But the first mistake I make, I'm a human being, right? We screw up, we fall down, you know. Excellent decisions equal less stress if you want to put it into a mathematical formula. But that just comes with practice, I think. No one just easily makes excellent decisions. All right, next. Develop priorities and have a big picture perspective on life. We talked about the priorities last night, right? Let's talk about the perspective. I want you to see the forest through the trees of your life, right? But we don't do that. We focus on little trees. But imagine how silly that is in the real world. Like you go up to Vale, right? And the first tree you see in Vale, you say, oh my God, Vale, this is beautiful. Wow. You wouldn't do that, right? You'd look around and say, wow, the Gore Mountain Range, this is beautiful. Why in our lives do we focus on the one tree? And if you're a perfectionist right now, nothing I'm saying to you is making any sense. Because you think you can just do everything, right? Life's not like that. At my law firm, I focused on this little tree, you know? My law firm tree. And whenever anyone got near it, I would shoo them away, you know? And I didn't notice something. The forest all around me was on fire. Losing family. Never going to church. I'm a religious guy. Never saw my friends. But this tree was fine. It's like a picture I saw of California wildfire, and it was 360 degrees around this guy's house, yeah? And he wouldn't evacuate. There's always a guy who won't leave, you know? He says, I'm not going to leave, man. I got a plan. I'm like, well, okay, what's the plan? I'm reading on. In one hand, he had a bucket. And in the other hand, he had his hose. And that was his plan for the California wildfire. So he ended up losing his house, right? And the same thing was going to happen to me. I was sitting there with my bucket and my hose and my little tree, and everything around me was caving in. Is that your life? I don't know. It wasn't important. I should have been a big picture person. When you're a big picture person, stuff has to suffer. So in my class, if a kid walks up to me and says, Professor C, listen, man, I couldn't study for your test because my best friend needed me. Awesome. I'm not upset with you at all. As a matter of fact, I praise that decision, but don't expect an A. You'll probably get a C on your test, and that's what happens when you do a different priority. See, the problem with students is this. You expect an A no matter how hard you work because you've always had an A. And so you get into my class or Professor Holt's class, and it's a little harder, right? Like her midterm's a little harder. But chances are, you could have studied better. You maybe misprioritized some things. Or you prioritize them correctly, but you need to take your C and move on. Right? Don't learn this thing the hard way. I treat important matters like important matters in my life and trivial matters like trivial matters. If you look at this boot camp, from your perspective, it looks really smooth. From my perspective, I see all kinds of mistakes. But you know what? When someone walks up and says, like, hey, that kid just took his bag and went home. Okay, he took his bag and went home. Doesn't bother me. Before in my life, that would have driven me insane. Hey, was lunch too long today? Yeah. Lunch was probably 20 minutes too long today. I feel bad that I kept you that long, but we move on and we fix it next year, right? I'm a big picture person now. That's how I want you to look at this weekend. Big picture. All right. Next, number 3. And be thinking of questions. If we have time, I'm happy to take questions. Avoid pursuing too many work, school, or social-related endeavors. So I guess the problem with most students is they work 40 hours a week and they go to school. If that's you, I would tell you to not do that. I never would have gotten into Duke Law School if I had to work a full-time job. I would say take loans. So my loans, $120,000, cost me $1,000 a month. But compared to the amount of money I make because I went to Duke, it doesn't even matter. Okay? If you're going to go be a school teacher or something, it's a different conversation, right? But if you're going to go into business, I would encourage you to take loans as opposed to working 40 hours a week. Now, if you have a work study and it's 10 hours a week, cool. I wouldn't work any more than 10 hours a week. I would take loans, and I know it's scary in this economy, but I believe in you all enough to think that you can do it. I never would have got there if I had to work. It's too much. And I guarantee you, if you work those kind of hours, you're stressed. But for the amount of money you're paying to go to school here, this should be first, right? Ahead of work. Not first in your life, but ahead of work. Then I know some people who are all social all the time. Couldn't care less about school. It's all about hanging out. 5 nights a week, they're out. I guess what I would say to you about those people is they might seem really happy on the outside. Inside, I guarantee you, they're not. They know that they're here to go to school. They know that something's slipping, right? Partying like that at the end of the day is a fake rabbit. It's short-term happiness, and you sacrifice a lot of long-term intelligence and knowledge, right? And then there are people who are all school all the time. And I would argue to you that that's bad too. I know students who are in the library all the time. They finish class, they go straight to the library. That's awful. That's not why you're here. What I would say to you is what balance? What balance can you find? Just get a balance of everything. Life is balance. That's all yoga is and everything. Life is just balance. Social, work, school, in balance. Something's going to have to drop. So if you're a work person, something will have to drop there. If you're a social person, you're going to have to cut back. If you're an all-school person, you'll have to accept an A- rather than an A. Best thing ever happened to me in college is my first A- I got. I got it my first quarter here. Never had to worry about a 4.0 again. But I graduated with a 3.95, right? But I didn't try to be perfect. I just did the best that I could. By the way, my LSAT was so low, if I didn't have such a high GPA, I wouldn't have gotten in. So it's a balance, right? The higher your test scores, the lower your GPA can be. If you're an awesome test taker, you can afford a little bit of that. If you're not so good at standardized tests, then you better get your grades high. But in this economy, everything has to be higher than it was for me. All right, next. Where are my perfectionists in here? Just admit it. Mary, yeah, I know that. Daniel, of course. Yeah, Amanda. What was your stress score? Tell me later.
Yeah.
Number 4, avoid seeking perfection from yourself. Human beings aren't built that way. I mean, we fart 14 times a day, right? But if you can't expect perfection from yourself, who can't you expect it from? Who knows the answer?
Everybody else?
No one. You can't. That's not fair that you're going to screw around, but you expect your friends to be perfect. You expect your family to be perfect, but you screw up. I'm tired of that approach. I've lived a lot of my life like that. I'm really hard on my friends, because of my job. I just demand a lot out of my friends. Paula will tell you, but I don't expect her to be perfect. I really don't.
When I am, it's okay.
But we'll see. Number 5, don't worry too much about bad things that could happen. Remember Y2K? Y'all were just barely born, but Y2K, the world was supposed to end. So computers would hit January 1st, 2000, and the whole world would end. So we spent trillions of dollars trying to fix it. And then January 1st, midnight, right, rolls around and we're fine. We worry too much about bad things that could happen. Thomas Jefferson has a great quote. How much pain they have cost us, the evils which have never happened. Right? So you get out of a bad relationship. How many people have had someone say this to you? They get out of a bad relationship and they say, I'm never going to date anyone ever again. That's stupid, right? Here's what I want you to say back to them. Date someone again, just not someone like him. Just not someone like her, right? But date someone again. Could it go bad? Yeah. But guess what? If that's your attitude, you could walk out of these doors and get hit by a comet. You could. If you want to start talking about that, you could. Or that space satellite that fell down, I mean, could have been you. My wife does this to me all the time because I worry. I'm a worrier. I'm paranoid. That she's diagnosed me with all these freaking personality disorders. Paranoid, whatever, other ones. And I got it. Sometimes she'll say to me, it could happen, but it probably won't, right? Just calm down. Number 6, improve your lifestyle. And this is a hard one for you. Hard one for college kids. Your lifestyle is what you're doing outside of school, outside of work. That's your lifestyle. And if you live an unhealthy lifestyle, then you will be stressed. Bodies aren't made to go to sleep at 4 and wake up at 6. Human bodies need a certain sleep cycle. My wife will tell you it's medically proven that you need 6, 7, 8 hours sleep every night. And your body has to know what's predictable, right? So you have to find a way. If you intake all that alcohol and throw up, what is your body telling you? It's not comfortable with that. You're hurting yourself. Same is true of all these things that we do to our bodies that aren't helpful. If your lifestyle is bad, you will pay for it later on. You'll pay for it. Well, my wife will tell you that smoking pot is not medically better than all these other alternatives she can prescribe. You know what else she said? People with medical marijuana licenses are like 90% of them men, ages 18 to 23. She would argue till the end of the earth that there are no medical benefits greater than any medicine you could take. But the detriments of doing that, long-term health, she would tell you, really negative. So how's your lifestyle? Do you exercise? Do you eat right? Okay? Not too much, and definitely not too little. Number 7, be more flexible with life. So if you think, okay, listen, since I had a girl say this to me. Since I was 7, I wanted to be a pediatric neurosurgeon. And I looked back at her and I said, what does that even mean? She's like, I don't know, my dad's one. Why do you want to be that? Because my dad told me I should. How awful is that? So guess what? She flamed out. She's now in business, not in biology. But her whole life, she wanted to be that. She was completely inflexible. She's a wreck. If you would have asked me 8 years ago, hey, Corey, you're going to be a teacher, I'd have said, no way. Teacher? I want to be a lawyer. But I'm flexible with life. The things life throws at you, if you're flexible, you're not very stressed. I'm a huge, does everything happen for a reason? No. When I see a 4-year-old kid get hit by a car, I can't justify that in my mind. But I think most of the things in my life have happened for a reason. And I look back and now I kind of see how it was all sort of set up for me. I don't know. But I'm flexible now. I want to encourage you to be flexible. Okay, 8, talk and be open to talking. Ever been in a restaurant and 2 people are sitting there and they're eating and they're not saying a word for like an hour? I just want to walk up and slap them. Just go home and watch baseball, right? Why are you here eating dinner? You don't even talk. But you know what's even ruder and worse? When I go to Crimson and Gold, or I walk around and you guys are with each other just on your phones. There's 2 people at a table. One person's just sitting on his phone like this. Or you get a text message and you're in the middle of a conversation and you completely ignore that person and look at your phone. I can't think of anything ruder than that. What are you telling the person that's across from you? Dude, this stupid text message is more important than you. That's hideous. I was at Subway and this mom was with her kids. I'm like, cool, this mom's taking her kids to lunch. And these kids both pulled out their cell phones, ignored her completely. And I saw her face like she was ready to cry. I just want to tell you, when you do that, when you pull your phone out like that, when other people are talking, it's very rude. But here's what's going to happen if you don't get accustomed to talking. It'll come out. Wrong way, wrong time, wrong place. And you'll hurt someone's feelings really bad. So you need to find the people in your life that you can confide in. And you gotta tell them. Now, don't be the drama queen, right? Or the drama king that sits around and just, we all have a friend like this, right? Who is all drama all the time and they just zap your energy. Don't be that person. But you gotta have 4 or 5 people you can talk to. And if you're dating someone and you can't talk to them, move on. Someone else. And then when someone's ready to talk to you, you have to listen, right? I mean, you have to listen to people if you're gonna talk to them. 9, watch a sunrise or a sunset. My wife and I bought this beautiful house in Westminster. Overlooks Rocky Mountain National Park, so Longs Peak. The whole reason we bought the house, so that we could watch the sunset over Longs Peak, okay? They charged us an $80,000 lot premium. Any real estate people in here? Okay, what is that? What's a lot premium?
What?
What's a lot premium?
It's pretty self-explanatory.
What is it? You just don't know.
No, I mean, it's a lot. It's a premium on the lot.
Right.
Because the lot's position.
The view, or
Yeah.
whatever. $80,000 for this view. But if trees grow up and block the view, we don't get our $80,000 back, right? So before I wrote this book, we had seen 5 sunsets in 5 years. And it was the entire reason I bought the house. When you watch the sunset, or have any of you seen the sunset over Hawaii, or Florida Keys, or Key West? Your small problems sort of go away when you just take 10 minutes to watch that. So my wife and I were out there, and she's like, is it set yet? And I'm like, yeah, let's go in. Just take 10 minutes. Sit out there, relax, and do that. All right, 10, go to bed a little earlier. Take a nap once in a while. Ever had a good nap? It's the best, right? Ever had a bad nap? You just want to kill yourself? If you wake up from a bad nap, it's probably worse. If you nap every day, you have a serious problem, right? So in the real world, you can't nap every day.
Oh boy.
But a good nap, yeah, man, you're screwed. A good nap here and there, right, is really meaningful. If you can go to bed a couple hours earlier every night and hit like 11 or midnight, my wife will tell you, it'll do wonders for your health. But here's what we do wrong. We take our school books to sleep, right? So before we go to bed, we pull out our chemistry. Now that might put you to sleep, but it will put you to sleep in the wrong way. You got to take a book that's fun to read, like a John Grisham book, or whatever you like, or this. Right? And then that's the right way. Then you won't have nightmares about chemistry. 11, watch a cartoon. Right? Watch America's Funniest Home Videos. My wife will come home and she'll say, I just saw someone die on the operating table today, and I had blood all over my scrubs, and there was blood all over my shoes, and I had to walk out into the waiting room and tell them that their 18-year-old son had died. So she says, I need to do 2 things. I need to cry, and I need to watch America's Funniest Home Videos. That's the only way she can decompress from something like that. Same with me, man. I have such a hard job, believe me. If even one of you isn't liking this, I take it personally. I shouldn't, right? I just think I can reach every single one of you. I can't. But every day I have all this on my chest. I have the weight of the world on me because I'm teaching ethics, you know. So when a kid cheats in my class, I feel like such a failure. So I have to be able to go home and watch something. So for me, it's sports. I like to watch sports. It used to be the Broncos, but now it stresses me out. Tim Tebow or not, we suck. It's not the Nuggets because it stresses me out. So Duke basketball's about to start. That will make me happy. 12. Say and do something nice for someone else, especially someone who can never pay you back. When was the last time you did something nice for someone you don't know? I was in Kinko's, right? And there's this long line, and we're starting to get to the front. And the guy in front of me had one thing, and he wanted to make a color copy, one thing. Cost $1, right? So he gets up to the register, and he gives this thing to the lady, and she's like, $1. And it just occurred to him that it might cost, you know? So he's looking through his pocket, and he's got a dime. Looking through his pocket here, he's got a quarter, but he's got like 7 more pockets, and I didn't want to wait. So I pulled $1 out of my wallet, and I said, here you go, man. Turns around and he goes, give me your business card. I'm like, no. You can have it, man. It's cool. He's like, give me your business card. I'm like, okay, awkward. Look at that. 2 weeks later, and this is in my office. If you ever come to my office, you'll see this. There's a hand-drawn picture of an eagle. It's beautiful. Turns out this guy was a world-famous pencil artist. Okay? He sends me this thing. It's probably worth $500. He wrote me a note. He didn't email. He didn't text me. He took a pen and wrote me a letter. Try it sometimes. It's quaint. It said, Dear Corey, thanks for being a nice guy. I know it's just $1. Here's a token of my appreciation. I'm blah, 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 blah. I felt really guilty at that point because I gave him $1 to get him out of line. I wasn't following my own advice. I just wanted him out of line. But now I work really hard to do something for people, or things for people that can never pay me back. Which students always ask me all the time, Professor C, why do you care so much about us? Like, seriously, why do you care so much? Well, because I believe in you, right? Can you pay me back? I don't want you to. The way you pay me back is by going out and making a difference. Coming back and being an ethics boot camp speaker in 10 years. And that's how you start to pay me back, you know? Next year when kids ask you what this is like, tell them it was fun. I mean, little stuff like that is how you pay me back. I mean, I think that's how that works. 13, laugh, giggle, and snort. Where are my snorters? I heard you last night. One. Who else? Where else are my other snorters? Okay, my wife snorts. And when she snorts, I tickle her because then she snorts more. And it makes me laugh, right? So those who snort, don't just tickle Callie like ass.
It was so embarrassing.
But they should ask you before they just tickle you, right? But when people snort, it makes you laugh. We talked about laughing every single day, right? 14, pet a dog. Where are my dog people? Okay, where are my cat people? If you can find your cat, if he'll come anywhere near you, pet him. Otherwise, you got to find a dog. Cats are like, oh, yeah. Dogs are cool. Your cat's just like a dog? Okay. 15, this is maybe the most important one. Take a walk. Remember when you were kids? We used to walk everywhere. I used to get on my bike. I'd take a basketball on my bike, and I would just ride a mile to go shoot baskets. I'd go back home. Now what do we do? Drive. That's all we do is drive. And not only do we drive, we take our music and we blast it as loud as we can. We talk on our phone. We text while we're driving. Here was the thing about taking a walk. It forced you to think about your life. Cope with reality. I think the biggest problem that human beings have that causes them stress is they can't cope with their own reality. They don't like the truth sometimes, which is why this ethics boot camp is pissing some people off, because it's hitting a nerve pretty close to home, and we don't like that. My speech hits a nerve, doesn't it? Like with a lot of you, it may have offended you, and I'm okay with that. I'm glad I offended you. At least you care about something, right? But the point is, if you don't ever cope with your reality, you'll be miserable. So I want you to take your car, if you have to, and drive to a park and leave everything in your car. Take your keys. Because some guy emailed me. He's like, I left everything in my car. I locked my keys in there. All right. Leave everything in your car, take your keys, and take a walk. Here are the questions I want you to ask yourself. Am I a kind person? Am I an honest person? Am I courageous? Am I selfish? Am I mean? Am I compassionate? Am I loyal? Am I faithful? Am I proud? Am I humble? Right? And just ask yourself those questions. And if you don't start liking the answers, fix it. Pick one at a time and fix it. But I can promise you, if you never have that conversation and just blast your music, see, this is why people go out on the weekends. You know how this goes, right? You have a stressful week and it's midterms and you just need to drown your sorrows. But your problems are there on Monday. Always. The way to get rid of those problems is to figure out where you're falling down, get back up and fix it. So I have a ton of problems. I'm impatient. I'm an impatient driver, right? I fall more on the arrogant side than on the meek side. Right? I have all these problems and all these, Aristotle's little virtue lines, right? And so every day I try to fix it. And I'm just trying. I'm just coping with my reality. Is it fun? No. What I almost had printed on these black shirts for the leaders on the sleeve was this Me Too. Because I think it's easy for you guys to think that I'm just sitting here telling you what to do. The shirt would say Me Too, meaning me too. Am I a jerk? Yeah. Am I mean to people? All the time. Am I always compassionate? No. Am I arrogant? All the time. Me too. Right? So next year we'll put it on the shirts. Us too. We're just here struggling together trying to fix it, right? But let's cope with our reality and see where we fall down. 16. Read something unrelated to school. So I hope you like to read. I got a buddy, he's 35. He used to date much younger women, so he'd bring like a 20-year-old over to my house. She's nice enough, right? But we didn't have a ton in common. He wasn't dating her for that reason. So I got all these books in my house. I've got a library full of books, right? So she comes in, she looks into my library and goes, reading gives me a headache. And I'm like, sit down. Because I'm a college professor. I'm not going to stay after that. I took her in and I said, sit down. Mindy, does it really give you a headache? She's like, no. She goes, my parents, we just never read, and I just never got into it. You know what she said to me at the end of our conversation? Can I borrow one of those books? And now she comes over sometimes. They have long since broken up. She comes over and takes books once in a while. It's kind of cool, right? Reading can relieve your stress. Okay, next. Give someone a hug. And if you need one, ask someone for a hug. I have never received a hug and felt worse. Have you? And guys, we don't have to do the stupid guy hug, right? You can give a guy a real hug. Now, I'm a lawyer, so you should ask permission before you just start hugging people. 18, play with a kid. So I told you I taught tennis. In between lawyer and this, I taught tennis to kids. And nothing is more fun than watching a 5-year-old try to learn tennis. Any tennis players in here? All right. So this kid, right, he'll sit here and you'll feed him tennis balls. Whip. You'll feed him 20 tennis balls. And by the time he hits one, boom! Did you see that? Goes over the fence, Did you see that? I hit it. And I'm like, yeah, I saw it. Now go get it. Adults go like this. Whiff. Tennis sucks. I hate teaching adults. I'll teach a kid anytime. See, kids are everything we should be, aren't they? The kid falls down, she gets back up. Kids are idealistic. We are realists. I'm telling you guys, I'm an idealist. That means I get hurt a lot. Because I just believe that you're going to care. And if you don't, it lets me down. But that's the only way to live. If I was a realist, I would understand that perhaps 50% or fewer of you actually are enjoying this. But I'm an idealist, so I'm thinking it's 90 to 100. It's the way I live my life. I get let down a lot. Huh? But you know that about me.
Why is it me?
Because I've known you for a long time. I get let down a lot by students. But for some reason, I just keep getting in there and fighting for you guys. I don't know why. But if you wonder why your professors sort of have given up on you, think about a person that's been here for 30 years. and sort of walks into a class full of laptops. And you sort of wonder why your professors have given up. I'm not there yet, but I've had my days, you know. 19, clean up your room. Clean out your purse. Women, you don't need all that crap in there. Clean out your car, right? Mess equals stress. I had a guy the other day in his wallet. He pulled out this receipt in his wallet from like 2004. And it was all nasty and yellow. I'm like, why do you have that? He's like, didn't even know I had it. Duh, right? But why is it in there? And then my wife's purse. If I take my keys or whatever, my phone, and I put it in my wife's purse, I'll never find it again. Right? She can always find it. Y'all can find that stuff. But she doesn't need all that stuff in there. Okay, last. Every day I want you to take 5 deep breaths. And when you do, you'll just be calm. Let's do it together. Ready? 1. Wait, we're not doing it. Let's start over. I guess you guys don't realize that I can see you. Ready? You feel the energy just leave your room? When you relax, it's just calming. So if that's yoga for you, if that's taking deep breaths for you, Lily Tomlin had this great piece of advice. For fast-acting relief, try slowing down. What I would argue to you is you need to decompress and declutter your life so that you can focus on what really matters. Is stuff going to go bad in your life? Yeah, but you just got to sort of deal with it. So on my right side, I've got a lot of things. But on my left side, I have almost nothing. My stress score is almost always a 5 or a 6. But I got a lot over here, you know. But I'm allowed to deal with it because I'm not worried about this. All right, we got a couple minutes for questions. Anyone?
Professor,
Yeah, go ahead.
was there like a specific moment in your life where you're just like, I need to start changing everything? Like, was there one event?
There was 2. I can't believe you asked me this question, but I'll answer it. When I was 12 years old, I got arrested for stealing a candy bar and thrown in jail. They booked me, threw me in jail, and I could go one of 2 ways at that point, right? I could be just like my dad, or I could make something of my life. But I was such a screw-up that my high school guidance counselor said to me, Corey, I don't think college is for you. Probably go work at a gas station. And I'm just thinking, I'm going to show you wrong. Right? I'm going to prove you wrong. My whole life people have done that to me. Maybe that's you too, right? Where they don't think you can do it. And they said you can't do it. I would argue that just show them wrong. Prove them that you can do it. Thanks for the inspiration. Right? I appreciate that. And the second was at my law firm. And I'm looking at my life, and I was really close to getting trapped into that lifestyle. Right? And I was such a mess. I wasn't sleeping. It was taking years off my life. Now all my buddies who criticized me for quitting want my job. Everybody wants to be a professor, guys, because I have the best job in the world. I get summers off. Matter of fact, this year I'm not teaching winter or spring. I'm done till next fall. Pretty good gig if you can get it, right? I don't have that much stress. I still work pretty hard, though. What else? Yeah.
Is there something you find yourself doing daily to relieve any stress that you do have? Like, is there, like, I know some people meditate or do yoga, or maybe for you it's like reading.
Well, so I tried to do yoga, and that made it worse. You know what it is, though? I just, when I go home, when my wife comes home from work, so I usually get home before she does. I'll work when I get home. When she gets home, I just shut everything off, and we spend some quality time. Like, we eat dinner together, stuff like that. You know what I mean? We hang out together. We talk. We turn our phones off. And we used to watch, like, 24, Jack Bauer, you know. When there's shows like that, we'll sit down and watch that. And we'll work later afterwards, you know. But I just, when I'm with her, it just all comes into perspective of why I'm doing what I'm doing. You know what I mean? I will say this, since this is such a good question. On the inside of my wedding ring, we have 2 + 2 = 5. It's a concept called synergy. Do you know this? So if you're taking maybe it's a marketing class where I'm 2 and she's 2, right? And so if we're with other people, maybe we're 4, but together we're just right, and so we're 5, right? And those are the kind of relationships you're looking for with another person. So I've had a ton of relationships where 2 + 2 was 3. Have you been in those? Run. If you're with someone right now and 2 + 2 is 3, leave, right? And maybe in college you'll find your 4, okay? But don't settle till you find your 5. And when you find your 5, life, just believe me, it just makes sense. Thank you. That's a good question. Yeah.
So what do you do as far as dealing with stresses on the right? You know, the ones that you have to deal with.
You know what you have to do?
Face.
I focus on it, and if I need to apologize, I do. right? I look at the moments where I've been a prick and caused it, you know, and I try to fix it. I've still lost a ton of friends. I just don't have time for everybody. It's just hard for me, right? I just don't have time for every single person. It's really hard to try to fix that kind of stuff, but I just deal with it. And sometimes I'm an 18.